Hello and a very warm welcome to this special year-end edition of World Panorama with me, FrankPereira. On the show today, we'll take a look at some of the biggest stories to have taken place around the world in 2016. From Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election to the fall of Aleppo, from Brexit to the attempted coup in Turkey. We'll look back at some of the events that defined the world in the year gone by. Well, our top focus on this edition of World Panorama is Donald Trump's victory in the US presidential election. It was considered the most ridiculous, unexpected and divisive political campaign in US history. And at the end of it, it was the business tycoon who emerged victorious over his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton. Trump rode on a wave of anti-establishment sentiment to one of the most improbable political victories in modern US history. As news of the result was confirmed, world leaders began to send in congratulations, some fulsome, some more tentative, to the president-elect. Here's a look back. Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. A year ago, that might have qualified as the world's most improbable sentence. 6 months ago, it was still too ridiculous to contemplate. And 6 days before the American election, few truly believed that such a thing was possible. But it happened.
This is a historic night. The American people have spoken, and the American people have elected their new champion.
Trump not only took the traditional red states, he won battlegrounds like Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina. Then he stormed Democratic strongholds like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, states that hadn't voted for a Republican since the first George Bush in 1988. Riding a wave of resentment against the country's elites and voter antipathy for the establishment candidate Hillary Clinton all the way to the White House.
I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country.
The polls didn't predict it, and neither did the pundits. The Republicans' own key advisors had been quietly telling reporters that they expected him to lose badly. Trump himself may have believed that victory was possible, but it wasn't based on much evidence beyond the turnout at his rallies.
Honored by your support. Together, we accomplished what nobody thought was absolutely possible. And you know what that is? We're only getting started, and it's going to be beautiful. Remember that. We close one chapter in history, and we begin another. Our campaign received more primary votes than any GOP campaign in history. No matter who it is, no matter who they are, we received more votes.
Trumplicans celebrated an improbable victory gathering at a Midtown New York City hotel, wearing red "Make America Great Again" ball caps, dancing and chanting. While just a few blocks away, Democrats wept under a glass ceiling. America will elect a female president someday, but it won't be Hillary Clinton. The rest of the world reacted to Trump's win with disbelief at first, then outright horror. The Mexican peso plummeted to a 20-year low. And the prospect of a billionaire businessman becoming president sent stock markets around the globe into a dip, with the Dow Jones Futures Index shedding more than 700 points, a bigger drop than after the 9/11 attacks.
Russia is ready and wants to restore full-fledged relations with the United States. I repeat that. We understand this won't be an easy path, but we are ready to play our part in it.
Yes, I look forward to working with President-elect Trump. The American people have elected him as the next President of the United States. Britain and the United States share values of freedom, democracy and enterprise, and I look forward to building on the special relationship we have between our two countries to ensure the security and prosperity of our two nations in the future.
We look forward to working together with new US administration to push forward a consistent, healthy and stable China-US relations, which could be beneficial to the people of the two countries and the world.
Trump's victory was sealed through the overwhelming support of white working-class men in rural America and big city exurbs. And it was the result of a campaign that alienated many women, all minorities and even the traditional power brokers within his own party. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. The year 2016 saw the scripting of Brexit when the whole world watched Britain voting to leave the European Union. In the June 23rd referendum, 52% of Britons voted to leave, while 48% voted for remain. The immediate impact was felt by world markets that saw major fluctuations. Even as more young voters preferred to remain, the elderly voted to leave, highlighting a divide that was unfair for the coming generation of Britain. The results triggered the resignation of David Cameron as the Prime Minister of Britain. Theresa May, who took over, said she will initiate the process of leaving EU by the end of March 2017.
On June 23rd, in a landmark referendum, Britain voted to leave the European Union. In the process, it dealt the biggest blow to the European project of greater unity since World War II.
We've got our country back!
Brexit, the word that has since entered the lexicon, plunged global financial markets. More than 30 million people voted in a referendum turnout of 71.8%. Complete results showed a near 52 to 48% split for leaving. The verdict triggered fears that the decision will hit investment in the world's fifth largest economy. Also at risk were London's role as a global financial capital and uncertainty in the world's biggest trading bloc. In the immediate fallout of the move, the pound suffered its biggest one-day fall in history, falling over 10% against the dollar to hit levels last seen in 1985, while the euro slumped more than 3%.
The UK has entered a period of uncertainty and significant economic adjustment. The efforts of the Bank of England will not be able to fully and immediately offset the market and economic volatility that can be expected while this adjustment proceeds. More fundamentally, the future potential of this economy and its implications for jobs, real wages and wealth are not the gifts of the Bank of England, but will be driven by major decisions made by others within the public and private sectors.
Quitting the EU could cost Britain access to the European Union's trade barrier-free single market. It also meant that it must seek new trade accords with countries around the world. England voted strongly for Brexit by 53.4% to 46.6%, as did Wales, with Leave getting 52.5% of the vote and Remain 47.5%. Scotland and Northern Ireland both backed staying in the EU. Scotland backed Remain by 62% to 38%, while 55.8% in Northern Ireland voted Remain and 44.2% Leave. The vote initiated at least 2 years of divorce proceedings with the EU, the first exit by any member state, and caused the resignation of British Prime Minister David Cameron.
On Wednesday, I would attend the House of Commons for Prime Minister's questions, and then after that, I expect to go to the Palace and offer my resignation. So we'll have a new Prime Minister in that building behind me by Wednesday evening.
New Prime Minister Theresa May was against Britain leaving the EU, but she said she will respect the will of the people. But there is still a lot of debate about what that will mean in practice, especially on how British firms do business in the European Union and what curbs are brought in on the rights of European Union nationals to live and work in the UK.
The referendum result was clear. It was legitimate. It was the biggest vote for change this country has ever known. Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it. Now, of course, we wouldn't have had a referendum at all had it not been for the Conservative Party and had it not been for David Cameron. And I want to take a moment to pay tribute to David.
For the UK to leave the EU, it has to invoke an agreement called Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty that gives the two sides 2 years to agree the terms of the split. Theresa May says she intends to trigger the process by the end of March 2017. Meaning the UK will be expected to have left by the summer of 2019, depending on the timetable agreed during the negotiations. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come, 2016 has seen many famous personalities breathe their last. We'll look back at the lives of some of the greats on the other side. Stay tuned. The year-end edition of World Panorama will be right back.
Like two persons, they cannot have same fingerprints. Similarly, no two woods in the world can have the same structure. Our slogan is use more, grow more, because there is no material which can replace that wood. Latest work which the institute has done is wood polymer composites. Our purpose is to replace that plastic or reduce the use of plastic.
Watch Eureka with Dr. S.K. Sharma, Senior Scientist at Institute of Food Science and Technology on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. This is the special year-end edition of World Panorama. The end of the year was marked by the liberation or fall of Aleppo, the Syrian city where the rebels held out against a bitter onslaught of the forces of President Bashar al-Assad. Over the course of 6 years, Aleppo turned out to be the last frontier in the civil war that caused thousands of deaths and forced civilians to flee the region. The horrors for around 320,000 civilians trapped in Aleppo continued, with the Assad regime carrying out a siege with the help from Iran and Russia, blocking essential supplies into the city.
On December 22nd, the Syrian state media quoted the government declaring that it had taken full control of Aleppo. The announcement capped over 5 years of armed struggle with rebel forces who had tenaciously held out against the forces of President Bashar al-Assad. Amid the celebrations by the pro-government supporters and evacuations of thousands of residents, the rubble-reduced streets and the smashed buildings stood out as reminders of the crushing defeat for Syria's opposition. The violence that killed more than 250,000 people and forced more than 11 million from their homes spiked since February 2016, when the partial truce brokered by the United States and Russia crumbled. 4 months later, in July, advancing government forces put East Aleppo under siege. By November 30th, the insurgents found themselves on the brink of a catastrophic defeat. In their attack, government forces stepped up the use of airstrikes, including in Aleppo's old city. Gains by the Syrian army and its allies in December brought whole districts back under government control and led to a human exodus as thousands fled the pulverized city. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Britain-based war monitor, reported that the government was detaining and questioning hundreds of those fleeing rebel-held areas for the comparative safety of state-controlled districts. The fighting displaced around 50,000 people in the parts of East Aleppo. More than 40,000 people fled areas of fighting in western Aleppo, bringing the total who left Syria's biggest pre-war city to 60,000 since August.
Stand with Aleppo.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, backed by Russia, Iran and Shiite militias, the taking of Aleppo represents a huge stride forwards in his efforts to end the rebellion after nearly 6 years of conflict. For the mostly Sunni Muslim rebel groups, the fall of Aleppo deprived them of their last big foothold in a major city. Russia, Assad's most powerful international ally, whose air force has pounded rebels for more than a year, said it hoped that the Aleppo situation could be resolved by the end of the year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, there were several other events in 2016 that shaped the world. Let me now take you around the world and recap some of the other significant developments of 2016.
Over 11 million documents that detailed financial and attorney-client information for more than 2,14,488 offshore entities were leaked in April this year from the database of the world's fourth biggest offshore law firm, Mossack Fonseca. The massive leak, known as Panama Papers leak, exposed offshore holdings of 12 current and former world leaders among 143 politicians, their families and close associates from around the world. The year-long investigation was done by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, a German newspaper and 100 other news organizations. After serving as Brazil's president for more than 5 years, the country's Senate voted Dilma Rousseff out of office in September. Rousseff said she was removed for supporting a corruptive investigation which led to high-profile politicians being charged. The centre-right PMDB party's Michel Temer was sworn in as Brazil's new leader, ending the 13 years in power of Rousseff's left-wing Workers' Party. The Paris Agreement on climate change came into force on November 4th. Various governments agreed to keep the global temperature rise to 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial. The deal, agreed in the French capital in 2015, commits governments to moving economies away from fossil fuels. Paris is the first agreement tying rich and poor nations in a common endeavour to protect the climate. The national targets for cutting carbon emissions are voluntary. North Korea conducted a series of nuclear tests in 2016. The country reportedly hit the button on its fifth and potentially most powerful nuclear test in September, claiming to have successfully detonated a nuclear warhead that could be mounted on ballistic rockets. World leaders condemned the test, saying it was a clear violation of UN Security Council resolutions. NASA's Juno spacecraft began its trip around Jupiter in July this year, 5 years after it took off from Earth to explore the planet. Juno will orbit Jupiter 37 times in all, including Jupiter's north and south poles, for about a year. One trip around Jupiter takes Juno about 14 days. Juno completed its third close buzz with Jupiter on December 11th, capturing data of the planet's interiors and its magnetic fields. Juno's next close flyby will be on February 2nd, 2017.
Well, there were many greats who left us in 2016. People who have left a mark on this world with their incredible contributions. They will be remembered forever. Here's a look back at the legends that are no more.
Cuban leader Fidel Castro was born near Biran, Cuba in 1926. Beginning in 1958, Castro and his forces began a campaign of guerrilla warfare, which led to the overthrow of Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista. As the country's new leader, Castro implemented communist domestic policies and initiated military and economic relations with the Soviet Union that led to strained relations with the United States that culminated in the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Under Castro, improvements were made to healthcare and education. In failing health, Fidel Castro officially handed over powers to his brother Raul Castro in 2008, but still wielded some political influence in Cuba and abroad. Fidel Castro died on 25th of November 2016 at the age of 90. Shimon Peres was born on 2nd of August 1923 in Wieniawa, Poland, now Vishnyev, Belarus. In 1997, he became acting prime minister when Yitzhak Rabin stepped down. Peres was elected the Prime Minister of Israel under its National Unity Government in 1984. In 1994, he co-won a Nobel Peace Prize for negotiating the Oslo Accords with Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. He was elected President of Israel in 2007 and retired from his role in 2014. On 13th of September 2016, Shimon Peres suffered a serious stroke and was put into a medically induced coma. He died on 28th of September 2016 at the age of 93. Writer Harper Lee was born on 28th of August 1926 in Monroeville, Alabama. In 1959, she finished the manuscript for her Pulitzer Prize-winning bestseller To Kill a Mockingbird. Soon after, she helped a fellow writer and friend Truman Capote write an article for The New Yorker, which would later evolve into his non-fiction masterpiece In Cold Blood. In July 2015, Lee published her second novel, Go Set a Watchman, which was written before To Kill a Mockingbird and portrays the later lives of her characters from her Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. Lee died on 19th of February 2016 at the age of 89. Born Cassius Clay in Louisville, Kentucky in 1942, Muhammad Ali became an Olympic gold medalist in 1960 and the world heavyweight boxing champion in 1964. Following his suspension for refusing military service, Ali reclaimed the heavyweight title 2 more times during the 1970s, winning famed bouts against Joe Frazier and George Foreman along the way. Diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984, Ali devoted much of his time to philanthropy, earning the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005. He died on 3rd of June 2016 in Phoenix, Arizona. Johan Cruyff was born on 25th of April 1947 in Amsterdam, Netherlands. The centerpiece of the Dutch total football strategy, Cruyff was the first 3-time European Player of the Year winner in a career that brought him from Netherlands to Spain to the United States. A successful manager after his playing career ended, he was named European Player of the 20th Century in a prestigious poll. Although he gave up smoking after heart surgery in 1991, Cruyff was diagnosed with lung cancer in October 2015. On 24th of March 2016, he died peacefully in Barcelona from the disease. John Glenn Jr. was born on 18th of July 1921 in Cambridge, Ohio. A Marine pilot, he was selected in 1959 for Project Mercury astronaut training. He became a backup pilot for Alan B. Shepard Jr. and Vigil Gus Grissom, who made the first 2 U.S. suborbital flights into space. Glenn was selected for the first orbital flight, and in 1962 aboard Friendship 7, he made 3 orbits around Earth. After his decorated service in the U.S. Marine Corps and NASA, Glenn went on to serve as U.S. Senator from his home state. He died on 8th of December 2016 at the age of 95. Canadian singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen was born in 1934. An early writer and guitarist, Cohen began to compose and release folk rock and pop songs by the mid-60s. One of his most famous compositions is Hallelujah, a song released on 1984's Various Positions. Cohen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2008 and he received a Grammy Award for his lifetime achievement in 2010. Cohen died in 2016 at the age of 82. While we were busy in the celebration of Christmas, pop icon George Michael bid adieu to the world. 53-year-old singer died of a heart failure in his Oxfordshire home in England. Started out as a street performer on London Tube, George became a rage with his band Wham. Under the Wham, he produced chartbusters like Careless Whisper, Father Figure and Last Christmas. In 1986, he started his solo career with more mature approach, however not as successful as his previous creations, but Faith, Don't Let the Sun Do Down on Me, I Knew You Waiting for Me earned him respect as an artist and accolades. Prince was born Prince Rogers Nelson on 7th of June 1958 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Prince's early music career saw the release of Prince, Dirty Mind and Controversy, all of which created controversy due to their fusion of religious and sexual themes. He then released the albums 1999 and Purple Rain, cementing his superstar status with #1 hits like When Doves Cry and Let's Go Crazy. A 7-time Grammy winner, Prince had a prodigious output that included later albums like Diamonds and Pearls, The Gold Experience and Musicology. He died on 21st of April 2016. Born Sari Gabor on 6th of February 1917 in Budapest, Hungary, Zaza was a celebrity and socialite for decades, mostly for being herself. She acted in films with Fred Allen, Jose Ferrer and Orson Welles. Her television resume included Gilligan's Island, Batman, The Love Boat and countless talk show appearances. Gabor was married 9 times, most recently to Prince Frederick von Anhalt. On 18th of December 2016, she died at the age of 99. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
2016 was a big year for sports too. Here's a roundup of some of the big sports news in the year gone by.
The 31st Summer Olympics were held in the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro from 5th to 21st August. More than 11,000 athletes from 205 national Olympic committees, including first-time entrants Kosovo, South Sudan and the refugee Olympic team, took part in the Games. The United States topped the medal table for the 5th time with 121 goals, followed by England and China. Jamaican sprinter Usain Bolt completed a triple treble by winning the 100-meter, 200-meter and 4x100-meter relay at 3 consecutive Olympic Games. Portugal won their first Euro Cup, defeating France 1-0 in the final of Euro 2016. The finals were contested by 24 teams for the first time since the 16-team format was used in 1996. Two-time defending champions Spain were eliminated in the round of 16 by Italy. Antoine Griezmann was named the player of the tournament and was awarded the Golden Boot for his 6 goals. Leicester won their first top-level football championship by winning the 2015-16 Premier League in one of the greatest sporting stories of all time. Leicester, who started the campaign as 5,000-1 outsiders for the title after almost being relegated last season, lost just 3 league games. In a consistent performance, the Foxes went at the top of the table since January 23rd and maintained it for the remaining half of the season. Almost all of Brazil's Chapecoense Football Club members died in a plane crash in Colombia on November 28. Only 3 players out of the 6 survived. The charter plane carrying 77 passengers crashed as the team were making their way to play the final of the Copa Sudamericana against Atlético Nacional. As a sign of respect, Chapecoense were declared the winner of the tournament, which qualified the club to take part in the 2017 Copa Libertadores. West Indies won the T20 World Cup for the second time after defeating England by 4 wickets in the final at Eden Gardens. The dramatic final saw the Caribbean side snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. Needing 19 off the final over, all-rounder Carlos Brathwaite hit 4 consecutive sixes off Ben Stokes to complete a scintillating win for West Indies. England had set a target of 156 runs in the final. The performance earned West Indies their second ICC World T20 title, the first team to win the trophy twice. They had lifted the trophy for the first time in 2012.
Well, that's all the time we have on this special year-end edition of World Panorama. But I'll leave you with some of the best photographs of 2016, courtesy National Geographic. Enjoy and have a happy and prosperous 2017.